Hello, everybody, and welcome back to that Milan podcast. Martino Puccio, Matt Santangelo, alongside me for another episode. Mr. Santangelo, how are you doing? While I take a sip of coffee that's desperately needed.
Obviously could be better. But the Champions League results haven't followed suit to what we've been achieving lately in Serie A. So, a bit disappointing there. But overall, not too bad. I look a little disheveled here. So if you're listening on audio, you avoid the mess that is my hair right now. But if you're listening and watching on video, well, then you guys can judge me in the comments.
Yeah, it doesn't help that I just got a haircut, so we look like polar opposites in that regard. Energy is kind of low for me today. I don't even know why. I'll try and pick it up as we go here. This one isn't going to be too long of a pod. There isn't too much to discuss outside of the game yesterday. If you didn't see the live reaction, you can go and check that out. It was more of like a basic one. There's so many comments coming in on lives that it's kind of hard to like keep up and talk on what we want to talk about. You were obviously working. You just caught up to watch the match today, so we'll hop right into it. Yesterday, obviously, Milan had a very difficult fixture against Bayer Leverkusen in Germany. Again, Leverkusen only 2 losses since the start of last season across all competitions.
Mm-hmm.
They lost in Bundesliga for the first time in the past 2 years, a couple weeks ago, and then obviously their Europa League defeat to Atalanta, which everybody wanted to cite yesterday after Milan's 1-0 loss on how Atalanta was able to dispose of them and all that. And then I pointed and turned to all of you to say, oh, yeah? Well, what about Bayern Munich? Bayern haven't beat them. This is, we'll keep this cut and dry and honest with this. This is a phenomenal team. In the next 15 to 20 years, when we're talking about some of the best teams that came through that aren't the top teams, Leverkusen's always going to be near the top of the list. It's a little different than the Leicester City situation.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's even further above or on par with Klopp's Dortmund as well. There aren't many times when a team like this, of this size, comes through and has a phenomenal squad. Very limited holes. The offensive talent is incredible. This is just a well-drilled team by what could potentially be one of the best managers of a generation in Xabi Alonso with the trajectory that he's currently on. I understand the frustration in the dropped result. I understand people thinking it's sort of unacceptable. This is Milan. The standard should be higher. I would like to temper your expectations once again on what the squad is and what limits we have. There isn't a true number 6 on this team. We didn't see that happen yesterday. We have Emerson Royale starting, inconsistency with some of the attackers. Yet Milan did not play as awful as some people would like to allude to. I think Milan were certainly in this match for the most part. Mike Maignan was sensational. I do think Milan need to be more crisp on their counterattacks. I think that's obviously where their window of opportunity was, Matt, to have a chance to score on Leverkusen yesterday. It was all through the counters. Tiny little errors or misplaced passes. Pulisic to Reinders. Leao had a couple of crosses that did not meet the right person. Morata's chance as well. Milan were right in there for a result, which would have been great. I think there's some positives to take away, but the fact of the matter is the result was 1-0. Milan have lost both of their matches to start the UCL. What were your main takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird one because I think, you look at the score line and you think, okay, well, Milan didn't concede a ton of goals. So defensively, they maybe weren't that bad. Again, if you're just looking at the score line and not the deeper stats, right? Because the first half, from the majority of it, told a much different story. I mean, Mike Maignan, as you mentioned, was sensational. For those maybe doubting, well, should we give him a contract extension? I don't know if he could do this. He was fantastic, right? He made 6-7 saves that were not gimmies. There were some really crucial saves he made to keep the game tight and to give Milan a chance, which they had in the second half. The second half was largely controlled, not controlled, but as far as some of the clear chances, Milan had some really good looks at goal. I mean, Hrdecki, I think I'm saying his last name correctly. The Leverkusen keeper, he also made some very good saves. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that Milan were not as clinical enough with those attempts. I think that they had some really good windows to have a better attempt, excuse me.
Yeah.
But overall, I think that Milan played a better second half. It was much better than the first.
I agree.
Which again, Leverkusen, as we all know, they ran rampant. They created a lot of chances. They had a goal ruled offside. A really good connection on that one as well. Frank Tom is
Tomori, though.
a
Tomori.
sensational player in that fullback position. But I think that it was an interesting game because I think there were some positives. I think specifically Youssef Fofana, who's been a major topic of discussion since he's arrived. People have been very critical of some of the performances he's put in, even in the victories lately in the league, where he looks okay, but he's not as good as maybe people thought he would be. And
Yeah.
we want to just reiterate and hammer home the fact that he was brought in very late. This is a player that hasn't really trained much at all in the preseason, and then he came in there really to play and learn on the fly. So I think that there were some good things to take away. I think that Milan, for good portions of this match, stayed with a top team in Europe, which is what you want. I think that what left me, I don't know, asking a lot of questions and again, just sort of thinking about the bigger picture when it comes to this competition was, all right, fine. You have a performance to be proud of. You did this, you did that, but at some point, Martino, where do we kind of discard and look past the moral victories in this competition?
Yeah. Ali
And
was talking about
this
this
is
on his.
something about we've been talking about for years, right? The return to the Champions League, where we had a tough group, that you can kind of stomach a little bit more because, hey, you had players like Rafa and many others in that team that were making their debuts in that competition. So there's going to be those growing pains of playing on a high level against higher competition. I get that.
Yeah.
But 2 years removed from the comments by Paolo Maldini in the semifinal against Inter, where he said we need to be brave, we need to be courageous. Look what we're on. We're at this stage of the tournament. Maybe we're not there. He's like, we're there, but we're not there as far as our quality stacking amongst the rest of Europe and the elite. So I think that there were some things to take that were positive, yes, but I'm of the belief and feeling that, like, all right, we still lost though. Like, I get it, but we still lost, and in the grander scheme of things, this isn't a result that I'm going to be like, hey guys, we had a good effort.
No,
I
this
predicted a
isn't
draw.
something.
I predicted a draw, and I thought we could have had a draw in this game. I thought we were worthy of a draw
I think we.
on the opposite side when it came to the officiating. And I know that some people use the argument when it comes to matches like this, where you're not going to be like, well, we can't completely throw out the horrific officiating because we had a couple chances. One was a penalty nod in the box with Tammy Abraham in the first half. You had a couple knocks in the final third.
I
In
think.
the
I
second
think the
half
most.
when Milan were trying to get a goal. So I'm not
Sure.
discrediting that, and I'm not just discarding that from the conversation. Sure. But the truth of the matter is this: we look around at the rest of our clubs competing in from Serie A clubs competing in this competition, and they're getting results. They may not be the cleanest results. They may not be the most polished results. They might not be, the most refined, but they're getting the results. And Milan have to do some soul searching in these moments because they know they have some easier opponents coming up in between Real Madrid. But still, like, you want to be able to go toe to toe with these teams and have the confidence to say, on this day, we're going to get this opportunity to win. And we just didn't do it. So we have to hope that we move forward and get a result against Bruges.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. One, I'm not doing this like all right. So there's so much there, and so I had to let you get your stuff out. So here's the thing: when you make the point about Maldini and going further at that point, we have to come to the realization that was 2 seasons ago, and ownership did not. And management did not put them in the position to take that step further. So realistically, we're still in that same spot that we were, arguably even taking a step back because of where we were as a team, mentality-wise. We had just won something. I felt like there was always still that confidence lingering over from the previous season where they were beating everybody in Serie A. They beat every single team, and they were road warriors. They were setting records on the road and all that kind of stuff. It's been sort of lackluster with that. Champions League, to be honest with you, there has been, in my opinion, and what we have all seen and what Milanisti who have seen them lift the Champions League, there have been 0 signature victories in the Champions League. In my opinion, outside of maybe Napoli, right, knocking them out because they drew in that game because Osimhen scored, they haven't had a signature win. When you look across all the group stages, we played some pretty...
You're not counting the PSG win as a signature win as far as
No,
against a good team?
I don't.
You don't? The fact that we pretty much dominated that game?
I don't.
You can say it's honest. You can say there's a difference, Martino. There's a difference between a signature win and then a significant.
It was a nice win. That's not a signature.
It's a nice win, but it's against a good team, and I think that what that did, unfortunately, was set a standard or expectation that was unrealistic for us to maintain relative to management and ownership's ambitions and those things. I think we've looked good in certain opponents, like last year in the group stage. We dominated Newcastle, big budget, all these players.
Yeah, there's 0 results there. There's 0 results.
I understand that.
I had one decent one.
The Napoli one, I would agree with you, but I think that you can't completely throw out the PSG match, even though again it's one-off. But when they needed a win, they got a win last year. It was the final match day that they fell short.
I disagree greatly because it's an afterthought. It doesn't matter. Like, we're sitting here like talking about like, oh yeah, that one good group stage win. To me, a signature win, and maybe we disagree with what signature means. Signature is going into somebody's house or going into facing an opponent that you probably have an unlikely chance of winning, and you come out victorious.
So it has to
nowhere.
Your criteria is it has to be an away game.
It doesn't have to be an away game. It has to also be against an opponent like like how we beat Inter just now in the derby. To me, that's signature. That's significant because that's a team you haven't beaten. It's a spot where you're struggling. To me, Milan didn't ever raise the bar in the group stages in the Champions League where I'm like, holy shit, wow, that was awesome. That is like a team that I think can consistently go deep into this tournament. Under no point outside of like a pretty fortunate run that they deserve to go to the semifinal have I ever felt like, yes, we've taken these next steps in the Champions League. I have seen 0 steps forward in that regard against the top sides. Like and you're right about this. This goes back to your point about like being proud and like, taking moral victories. How many of these like great wins against like Liverpool, like we lost against a B team in that first year at home. We got completely dominated once again by them at home. We haven't beaten like a top side. And to me, PSG's overrated. That PSG team last year, not very good at all. They were very lackluster in the group stage. I think they were fortunate to go deeper into that tournament. They had the best player in the world. So you're able to win and pull out victories like that. But in terms of teams, I didn't rate PSG that highly. I don't. I didn't even rate Dortmund that highly. That Liverpool team, that first year, they almost won a treble. They were on their way. They were fighting for everything. FA Cup final was the only thing that they won. They lost the Champions League final, just lost out to City in the league. That was an incredible team. That's a team or a signature game that I'm like, okay, yes, you feel like you could play with the big boys and get the result with it. Here, it kind of felt like Milan were hanging around during durations of this match, but it was never like Milan's the better side. And to me, you can get angry at that. You can get frustrated at that, but you could also come to the realization that, like, how many of us realistically thought that Milan were going to go into Leverkusen and pull out a win? No,
not a win.
Very small amount.
I thought draw, and I think I had it about right. I thought my expectation of how the game was going to go was going to be about right. But the margins are always so fun in these competitions, especially against really good teams like Bayer Leverkusen. But truthfully, I mean, I know you said like this is going to be one of the best teams of this. I think once they scored, Milan took it to them, and some really bad luck went their way. But we would be having a much different conversation, right? Had Milan gotten the favor in certain situations when it came to officiating.
I mean, we
Because I
got.
don't think this for
Oh,
I
I
would
could give you the stats on the fouls if you want. The fouls were ridiculous. Um, I think Milan had a couple of yellow cards. Leverkusen had 15 fouls. Milan had 4.
so I wasn't that impressed with Leverkusen.
You weren't.
Truthfully,
I thought they played very well. They still had 16 shots, 9 on
for a
target.
good
We were
portion of the game,
Frimpong was offside marginally, very close. We were
he's still
fortunate.
offsides though.
Okay. So and Milan still missed their chances.
Of course,
So
but
what we're
I'm
saying
not
here
going to
is the
sit
team
here and
that's
give Bayer
the
Leverkusen.
better finishing team won. I think we
Of
got
course.
outplayed. I do think though
Outplayed, but
refereeing.
not by much, in my opinion.
No, no, and I've said that. I said that yesterday on the live, but I think if you were to point and like make a quick decision on who played better yesterday, it's Leverkusen because they did. However, I want kind of your take on the refereeing stuff because you and I never do this. We never like we're gonna sit there point blame the referees. To me, so on the Tammy. I think the point of that, if the initial call on the pitch was penalty for Tammy, it doesn't get reversed. I think whatever the initial call was, because it was so close, there was never going to be that overturning of a clear and
No.
obvious error, which was really unfortunate. I think Leverkusen got incredibly lucky on the Loftus Cheek foul right outside the box.
Yeah.
And for those asking about VAR, you can't go back and change that because he wasn't inside the area. So if it's not a potential penalty, then you can't go back and change it.
You can only change something like that if it led to a Bayer Leverkusen goal.
Correct.
Yeah.
Then it would just get called back. So for me, I thought the ref was egregious. Teo got hit in the face. Nothing.
Full
VAR doesn't
extension
even.
too. It
What
wasn't like
happened?
it was like a shoulder to shoulder and his
Oh
hand.
yeah, no, he hit
It
someone in
was
the
a
face.
full on extension. I don't know.
This is the worst officiated match since the Atletico one at
Yeah.
home. It just this to me, I don't think it completely changed the outcome of the game. But I'll tell you what, Leverkusen are very fortunate. I think they had everything going their way this game with the
Yeah.
ref decisions. I think they got incredibly lucky. We also hit the woodwork. Who hit that? Was that Reinders?
No, it was Teo struck it. It was deflected and then hit the crossbar. Yeah.
I'm not getting on Fofana. I don't know if Fofana thought he was offside on that potential tap in, or he thought it was going in and he didn't want to touch it. It's also a really difficult ball to hit in, like with that reaction time and his positioning. I'm not going to get on him for that. I think the person I was most frustrated with that had an opportunity to score or even get a shot off is clearly Reinders. And I love him.
Yeah.
But that time where he's like dancing in the box like that was so frustrating because like, okay, sure, maybe you don't finish, but can we rip something off here that at least gives us an opportunity?
I mean, he did get a shot off. It was just a little late.
Well, that's
he was
the
on his
point,
right
though.
foot. He put it on his left, and then it was a simpler save for the keeper. But yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. It was in like the last 15, 20 minutes, I think.
Because everyone's just because he had the angle, I believe, on his left foot. Obviously, he's a right-footed player. Maybe that comes in with the hesitation there. I think still a 1-0 result. I know because it sounds like a moral victory. The result, the score line is not that bad. The result's disappointing because it's still a loss. People are like, "Oh my god, are we still going to have an opportunity?" I was like, "Listen, nobody's had a tougher schedule to start the Champions League than Milan has. I'm sorry, like facing Liverpool and Leverkusen back to back, like that's really difficult to." And I've also made this point too. I don't know if you agree with me or look at it in a positive light. We have a lot of difficult fixtures that we got out of the way to start the year. Away to Lazio, Derby with Inter, Liverpool at home, and now Leverkusen away. I think those are some pretty big fixtures. Milan came out looking okay in the league ones. Obviously, Champions League struggle. Is there kind of anything else? I think the counters were pretty good. I saw the build-up with these. They were just off by a tad, which is just typical Milan the past few years with the clinical finishing and the decisive passes. Pulisic just missed Reinders on that through ball. Tammy, I think as well. I think someone chased him down. What was that? The penalty maybe or the non-penalty call? I think when people were saying in spaces, because I don't think you were able to catch it, people were saying in spaces that they didn't think that Milan were like having any opportunities. I thought they were clearly there. It was just not reflected in the shots on target. I think I was talking to Adriano, Milan fanatic, good friend of ours. Um, he was saying he wasn't happy with that performance, and he was citing the shots on goal. And this isn't me having a go at you, Adriano, but just the disagreement I have, and I don't know if you agree with this, is you don't necessarily always need shots on goals to prove that you were creating chances or had some opportunities. They were right there for some of them. And this isn't just a moral victory that I'm trying to say here. It's just like just because you don't rip a shot on target doesn't also mean like Leverkusen were in trouble at some points. They certainly were.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there was 2, maybe 3 opportunities with Morata as well that he had a header wide, and it was a pretty clear header. And for someone who is as good in the air like he is, you'd expect him to at least get it on target. He didn't get it on target. But I guess according to people, that doesn't count as a clear chance because, well, it's not on target. That's a goal for a lot of teams.
Yes.
That's a goal for a lot of teams. The Reinders attempt that he kicks it right at the and he kicks it right at the guy's mitt. That's a goal for most teams. That's smashed bottom corner, back post goal. So again, this isn't me saying this is a moral victory at all, because I don't, truthfully, in this competition, I don't take that anymore, especially in the group stage. If you bowed out to Bayer Leverkusen and you were in this quarterfinal or semifinal, it's a little different conversation. You're deep in the competition. It's a good team. You played them tight. You played them to the end. You had some looks. Officiating didn't go your way, but okay, fine. Group stage, I know the format's different. To me, it doesn't do anything for me. I know there's a new coach here. I know there's new players here. This is what, our 4th, 5th year in the Champions League? 4th in a row? At some point, when do we just start with the moral victories for people, for some fans?
I was telling Ollie
You can
this
still
yesterday.
dissect the performance like we're trying to do and say, hey, I thought this guy was good, or I thought this guy was good, or there were some things to take away from it as far as like just judging player performances and going forward, like on the outlook going forward. But again, Milan had chances in this game. The numbers are not going to tell the whole story.
Yeah.
It's not going to tell you they had this many chances, this many this, this many that, and then it's going to say they had 5 incorrect calls. You watch the game, for large parts of the second half, that goal almost was a blessing for Milan, because now it was like, well, now we got to chase the game. And they had to play with bravery.
I think even after the goal got ruled out, I thought they woke up a little bit more too.
Right.
They started hitting better on counters. Yeah.
So again, I'm not really ready to christen Bayer Leverkusen, Xabi Alonso in this performance is like, wow, like they impressed me.
No, I never said that.
No, I'm not saying that. But like whoever thinks that like, man, they took, that was the game for that they took away, and then like, man,
they played way better games.
I think truly there were some performers in this game. I thought Rafa, these are the matches that after the Scudetto winning season, I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to be super hypercritical and psychoanalyze everything, but like these are the performances that people are going to look to for him and say, see, Champions League, did he do enough in this game against a good team? The Liverpool game, everyone played pretty bad, so you can't really say Rafa didn't do this, Rafa didn't do that. But in a match like this, where there's opportunity to score goals, Martino, he didn't do enough. I'm sorry. And people who are looking at Rafa and saying, oh, well, he's got to do more on the defense. I'm not even talking about the defensive side.
I don't give a shit.
Because I'm talking about going forward. He didn't do enough. Where was he in the final 15, 20 minutes, picking up the ball and taking guys on? I know this is a good team. I get that. But he's a damn good player. And we've seen him in the Champions League against Napoli a couple years ago, against PSG, against Newcastle last year, where he picks up the ball and he does something and makes something happen. I didn't see him.
But are those not the only 3 times he's really done something well in the Champions League, would you say?
Perhaps. But again, if we're going to be fair in judging Rafa, right? If we're going to be fair and cover both sides, because I know you and I We tend to agree for the most part on how people are very critical and hypercritical and
I think
unfair.
people over hate him in Serie A. There's no denying it. There's
I'm not
no
saying I'm not
denying it.
saying that. I'm talking.
No, I know. I'm just saying like why we defend that.
I'm
But we don't
talking.
sit here and defend these
Yeah,
performances.
I'm talking Champions League. This is a
No,
different.
I
This
mean
is a different
it's
ballgame.
not good enough.
And
It's not good enough. Yeah.
he didn't do anything through 2 games. He hasn't really done anything. And I'm not saying that it's all the losses are on him.
Sure, of course.
But at the end of the day, where do we say this in sports, Martino? Like the guys who get paid the most, all these things. Like you look to your stars in big games.
He's and talking about signature moments. I think the only like he had 2 games. Even Newcastle, I don't even consider it that because every time I think of Leao and Newcastle, I think of that back heel.
Yeah.
But realistically, the ties that he stepped up in, and I'm like, wow, that's our guy and that's our player. It's just Napoli. And then obviously the PSG match is the most complete performance of his career or at Milan. I truly like when you're talking about everything that you would want him to do well in work rate, creation, goal scoring.
Stage. Yeah.
It was all there in that one.
Yeah.
But if we say it one time, there's a difference. For me, I think Leao's a great player who gets overhated by quite a few fans. However, I've said this before, and I've said this. I have a hard time believing, and I don't understand why people do this, that they think that his ball striking ability and goal scoring is going to magically change at his age. Sorry, it's not going to happen. I'm here to break it to you guys. That's not going to happen. Maybe a little bit more consistency. No, none of that like 4 to 5 month absence. But to me, I told you this too. I am not expecting ever for him to get 15 goals in the league. I'd be very surprised if he
did it a
does
couple
that
years ago, though.
year in, year out. I think he came
year in and year out, but he did it a couple years ago.
He did it one time here.
I think it was the 2022, 2023 he did it. I think he wound up with 15.
Let me get the league though.
Yeah. No, I think he had 15.
He had 9. He might have gone in 22, 23. He had 15.
Yeah.
But like 15.
But he is a winger though. Like to be
fair.
I
know. But like also, okay. Yesterday, chances wise creating, ball carrying was subpar. Say we take out the goal out of that. You knew it. Where was like that
I didn't signature? See. There wasn't one singular moment in that game yesterday where I saw that he was okay. Like I'm not. This isn't me saying he's not trying. Before the people come in the comments and say, "Oh, what are you saying?" and then they're gonna see, we told you he didn't. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's again like you look to your stars in these games, and there has to be a conversation about that amongst Milan fans.
I thought Taylor played well, by the way.
He's 25, going to be 26. I agree with you. Like at some point, what's he going to have this awakening? He's going to say, "I know how to kick a football. I know how to strike a football better." He could be.
I'm just saying, like when has that ever happened? Is my point. That has never happened, unless I'm completely wrong on a player, and you could tell me otherwise. Who's the player? Who's the player that suddenly got better at that?
If you're a believer in stats, and this is from FootMob, again, I'm just reading the numbers just to add context to everything to make it so people can be aware and they're not be like, well, you didn't watch the game, you didn't see this, you didn't see that. So he played 90 minutes, 30 of 36 passes, 1 block shot, no chances created, none on target, none off target, 3 of 5 dribbles, 4 passes into the final third. That's really it. Like he got a 6.1 rating by FootMob. Again, it's FootMob. It's a football.
Ratings are.
But I think ratings kind of they add some color to the conversation in this scenario, where like you looked at it and you're like, did he have a moment like in the last 15 minutes?
I think he lost. I think he was.
Let me paint the picture for you, and those in the comments and everyone that's going to be listening and watching this. When Milan, they conceded a goal within the first 5-7 minutes of the second half, right? Yeah, and as I mentioned, that was somewhat of like a blessing because like, okay, well now we can't play for a road draw, which if you get a draw away from San Siro, you'll take that against a team like Bayer Leverkusen, no problem.
Absolutely.
Once they score the goal, They're at home. You're like, okay, well, we got to get something here. We're down. We can't play this sort of conservative football, try to keep possession. That's not going to work. Milan went and created chances.
Yep.
They went and created chances going forward. They had a handful of looks. They had a handful of chances and fouls in the final third in the late part of that game. In that window, that's where you look to your stars when the lights are brightest and the minutes are most tense. You look to your main guys to say, give me the ball. I'm going to try to make something happen. I didn't see anything. I
Well,
didn't see anything.
to
And he's
to back
25,
that up,
26. This is where you expect him. He's been in the Champions League for 4 years with this team, guys. He's been
this
the
is
main guy for
there's
pretty
a
much all those years.
there
Come
is a
on.
stat to support what you're saying though too. You didn't see any of that, meaning like you didn't see him take on people, etc. Right, seeing him at his best. There's a statistic that greatly backs that up, and that is Leao had the least touches of any outfield player to play 90 minutes. He had 48 touches.
Come on.
That's on him for this is did you see the Del Piero quote? I think
No.
maybe a couple weeks ago. I think this is the perfect way to surmise where Rafa is in his career. And Del Piero was saying he understands how Leao is as a player and how he likes to create and he needs like kind of the game to come to him, etc. And Del Piero was saying, okay, listen, if I knew my teammates were struggling and they couldn't help me, I had to go and get the ball and win the
Get the
ball
ball.
myself and do it because no one else is going to sit there and do that for you. Ademola Lookman just scored for Atalanta. Sorry, this has to do with my totals. But the point is, Del Piero, I think, gave the most fair and measured take of Leao possible. And that was, okay, if things aren't working for you, do you go out there and do you change things? And by the way, against Lecce over the weekend, when we were talking about some of those statistics, that he won the most duels in that entire match. And Fonseca has supposedly been working with Rafa. Rafa said this in his interview. Like I've been working with Mister. We've been trying to work on some defensive things because defense isn't always effort. Defense is positioning. It's putting yourself in the right place at the right time in order to be successful. Hence the ultimate Maldini quote: "If I had to make a tackle, I made a mistake." Straight up, you're 100% right with everything you said. Step up. This is the difference when people talk about Milan legends, Matt, where you could be awesome like Rafa, but then there's Kaká. And that level and that difference is staunch. It's massive. There's a gulf in overall leaping quality in the biggest of moments. And you could say Rafa's had very minimal ones across
And
all competitions
there's
in the
a
biggest of
difference.
games
And there's a
outside of like
difference
Napoli.
in this sport versus other sports, right? I mean, there's parallels to draw, but we always tend to like to do that, right? We talk about baseball, basketball, NFL, right? Football.
Yes.
And, baseball is a little bit more of a different situation because if you're not up to plate, you can't impact the game, right? If the ball's not hit to you, you can't really impact the game, right? More or less.
Yeah.
Basketball, when you look at the Steph Currys of the world, you look at the greats, Jordan, LeBron, they're going to the ball. Like they're running around like, I want the ball in my hand. Crunch time, when the moment matters the most, seeking the ball, seeking the moment.
Cometh the hour, cometh
do they
the
shy
man.
away from the occasion, or do they approach the occasion and say, look, give me the ball. I'm going to pick it up late, deep. And we've seen him do that. And I know he tried to do that in the Lecce game. I know Kush broke it down in his video, and he was saying like he came very late, came very deep to get the ball from Tomori, and Tomori pretty much showed him away and said, get forward. We need you forward. We need you closer to goal. So we've seen him get into those moods where he's like feeling himself and he's in the game and he's in the pace of the game. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go deeper just to kind of get the ball and see if I can run at guys, draw some players in and open up some space. We didn't see any of that. And I know sometimes the game can be very back and forth. I think the match, in my view, was open enough for Rafa to do much more, to pick up the ball in even deeper spots and
Sure.
in areas of the pitch where maybe they're not ideal for him to do the most
Mhm.
damage. But I think it would have turned some of the skeptics into saying, okay, well, he's seeking the ball. He's
Sure.
putting crosses in. Even some of his crosses weren't even that great.
No, not at all.
So again, like that's how I view him. And I view him in such a way where it's more frustration because I know how good he can be and I know that we've seen him do these things that I'm criticizing him for not doing. But that's where how I feel about him. And he might come this weekend and he might have a great performance in Fiorentina and all's forgotten by many people. See, look, Rafa, look, you wanted goals, here's his goals. But people are looking to the big moments. If we're talking
Yeah.
big picture and we're
But
talking big time players, they're talking, okay, but would you do in the Champions League? Would you do in the Champions League?
this is for me, I don't expect it from him because I've never seen it from him. I don't think he's that guy. Ultimately, I do not think we've seen it enough now that he's 25. And I love this player. I think he should stay. I think what he does is incredible. I think he's definitely one of the best left wingers in the world. However, this comes back to reality for a lot of Milanisti. There are levels to this shit, guys. There's levels to it. There's guys like Vini and Vinicius, right? The level that he took in leap in quality was at the perfect time at his age. When he was struggling, he was still a teenager, early 20s. Rafa's 25.
Yeah,
He is 25.
he's not a kid anymore.
I love
Like,
him. I love him.
yeah.
This player is sensational. However, and I'm not saying like people should like what you were just saying there, and I think you're right to demand that. But for me, I have a hard time getting just as upset as other people
Mhm.
because in my head, he's already where he's at. Like to me, he has peaked. It's either consistency comes in with the goals and then that changes and the assist numbers will be there because he's always going to create. This hope of Ballon d'Or Leao is only going to happen if the guy explodes for 20 plus goals and Milan go deep into the
I
playoffs.
I
And
I
and
yeah.
what is your percentage on him doing that, Matt? Is it under 25%? Because it is for me. And
I
and
don't
that's not me hating on him. That's the reality.
I think that, the people might use the argument, Vinny plays in the Real Madrid, they Champions League winners, right? Great coach, right? All that stuff. And you look at the performance again, just having the conversation. Look at the performance that Vinny had in the final against Dortmund, taking the game by the scruff,
Complete performance.
right?
Complete.
Complete, like going at guys, having fun out there. We know Rafa loves to have fun, go at players. And when he's doing that and he's feeling himself, that's when he's at his best, right? But again, that's where you start to look and see like there's that gap, right? There's that gap. And
Significant.
Rafa's 20,
Significant.
again, 25. This is a player in my view, and then this might be unpopular. People might say you're wrong, you're overlooking at it, whatever. The levels that people believe he can get and expect him to get to, based on what we've seen, he will not get at AC Milan. If he goes somewhere else where he's supported by other players that can attract that attention and he's not the main guy, he's not the main character, he's a supporting actor amongst a lot of star players, then I think he takes that next step because he does attract a lot of attention. But you put him in a team where they have striker, the midfield, everything's kind of more fluid.
Yeah.
If you put him on a team like Liverpool,
Yeah.
do you think that he does a little bit better? Do you think he's a little bit better player? Do you think that we're copy and pasting what we see here? Is that what he would be at Liverpool? Do you
I
do you
think I
think
think
that
that I think
he's
I think
reached that
because
max at AC Milan? Do you think that he has anything left as far as level to attain?
bro, it's for me. Okay, so say we put on a scale of 0 to 100%, right? Like you're maximizing abilities, like you have
Yeah.
like 100 points, right? To say for like a FIFA player, it's just all theoretical. It's made up. I'm putting 80% into what needs to improve most is ball striking and finishing. He is nowhere near like Mo Salah. He will never be near Salah's finishing ability and level. I don't even think he's going to reach Vinny's. That, to me, is the most glaring thing. People like talk about this work rate and all. To an extent, yes, but the rest, shut up. You're complaining about the shit that doesn't matter as much. What I get angry at, and you saw it against Lecce too, he has an opportunity to score. He fucking skied it to the moon. It wasn't close.
Wasn't even
And
close.
that's what bothers me, because and I know it's a very difficult sport. We're talking about the professional level. I'm sure it looks much easier on TV than it does in person, there on the pitch, obviously. But my God, guys, like, you're expecting something that rarely changes in players to change in the prime of their career. Think about it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
What you're asking is certainly highly unlikely. And for me, Rafa, if he goes to Liverpool, how much better is he going to get at finishing? Please let me know. Because they haven't fixed Darwin Núñez, by the way, who's supposed to be getting better. And Darwin does a lot of things outside of that. He's a horrible goal scorer. If someone told me my life was on the line and I had to choose between Darwin Núñez and Leao to score a goal, I might as well, okay? So for me, I get what you're saying, and I think the attraction would be a little bit differently. Maybe he gets a couple more goal outputs just because of the attention side. But realistically, the biggest issue is that ball striking ability and the consistency with finishing, and the want and need to be that way. Be more selfish. How many times have we said Leao is too unselfish? We've seen times where you're like, why are you passing the ball there? That should be you taking that shot and you finishing. And that's a mentality thing. That is, you're talking about a person and a player that is so deeply rooted into who he is as a player. You're asking that to change. And whether or not you want to get upset about that, and you have the right to, that's fine. But realistically speaking, expecting that to change, to me, is fucking bad shit. You're insane. It's not going to happen. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but when is a conversation going to be, okay, Rafael Leao has plateaued as a player, but it's still a fucking great player. It's just maybe not the guy that Milan needs to take them to that next stratosphere to win number 8. I don't think he is.
You look at the differences too, and again, I know people might, take this a certain way, but look at the manner in which Pulisic scores his goals. The goal, I know Rafa's had his moments. Again, I'm not taking away, and I'm not trying to be like one of those divisive fans that talks about Pulisic's better than Rafa. I'm not saying that. But some of the goals that Pulisic scored last year, left foot, right foot, he's a very good striker of the ball. And you can see it. You can see it in the way he kicks. Like, how many times have you pointed to a Pulisic attempt and you're like, whoa, that's a terrible attempt? Not many. If I'm wrong and out of line here, and you guys can point to a couple instances that even this season, fine, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But when you look at him when he kicks, I mean, at least it looks like he's kicking it, and it looks like it's like at least has a decent chance to either test the keeper or come close to coming near the net. And again, you have those moments with Rafa because it's frustrating because he'll beat 2-3 guys to get into the right spot and then drag his shot, sky it, and you're like,
like first match of the season, Tornino, Milinkovic-Savic, he gets the one-on-one. He just telegraphs. You could see exactly where he's going.
Most players of his caliber and of his ability score that goal. I know people would say it's a great save. I get that. One-on-one with the keeper, Vinny scores that. Salah scores that. His contemporaries, the players that you envision Rafa and you want Rafa to get near,
scores that.
They score that. They do score that. I'm sorry. And I think that's where he's falling short. He's an attacker. I understand that, he does more things than just goals and assists. And he has done a pretty good job of that, a very good job of that, in fact.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is this. When the conversation shifts to he's world class, he's one of the top 4, 5 in his respective area, no one's going to be praising Mo Salah if he's creating chances and he doesn't get a goal or assist and he doesn't do it for 2 to 3 months, people are going to say, he needs to score goals and assists. He's your main player.
He still gets shit. Salah
It's
still gets shit.
crazy. It's crazy, but that's the bar. Because he's been so great, he sets that bar. And it's not always fair, but then that's kind of where I'm at with Rafa. It's like he does all these good things and you're like, come on, like show me something that you're turning a corner and you're going to be a better finisher and a more efficient goal scorer. He doesn't do that. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying we should sell him. He's
not at
a
all.
fine player. He's a very, very, very good player. But I think that we try to be very honest and be realistic and be very fair and in how we judge players and specifically the ones on this club. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, he's your main star, right? You're trying to get to the next level. Like, how far can Rafa take you as the main star? Do you need to go and shake it up? This is, again, just a conversation to whoever.
I get what you're saying.
You need to shake it up and say, hey, you know what? We can get 120 million for him. Do we go and get someone who's like a Karim Adeyemi and someone else? And now we have like a more efficient goal scorer in the wide. Like, answer that in the comments, guys. I'll leave that to you guys.
Sorry, I got a DM from somebody. It's who scored European Team of the Month. Okay. Rafa Leao made it. So Rafa on the Team of the Month, him and Teo on there. Listen, and no, I don't want to sell Rafa. I just think sometimes the unfortunate reality is he's more of a, I know that this doesn't sound insulting, but hear me out here. He is more of a Seedorf, as in, like, he's not the main guy. He's one of the best players in the team. But, nah, that's disrespectful. It's not disrespectful to Seedorf. I'm trying to find the right player for this, but there probably isn't because Rafa's so unique. And I'll end it with this. We'll go to the Fiorentina preview. Rafa is so unique that he is so great that I think he is one of the best. He should be your second best player in your team in the world if you want to win the Champions League. People just have this thought in their head of a Milan player or Milan's best player playing in the Champions League should be Kaká. It should be Sheva, right? That standard, that Ballon d'Or winner. I think it's okay to say that he is that tier below those guys. And I think the overall frustration is that people are mad because he just didn't reach that level. And those levels were set by people that were us, the fans, the supporters.
Yeah.
We did the same thing with Neymar. Neymar didn't reach our expectations. Are you really that good, Neymar?
Also, too, in that conversation, that's a great point because, he was with Barcelona, MSN, right? Then they won the Champions League. Messi was the main guy.
Scored a goal.
Right? And Neymar was fantastic as one of the stars, one of the main characters, not the main character. He went to PSG to be the main character, right? He got there before Mbappe, or around the same time as Mbappe, right?
There before, year or two before, yeah.
Right, year or two before Mbappe. Did he win a Champions League as the main guy? Everyone was like, he's fantastic, and he's a fantastic player. But some guys aren't the ones to win you the Champions League. It's a team sport, but generally speaking, like there's levels to this, as you pointed out. Like, we've seen Ronaldo go on historic Champions League runs, and you're like, he's clear cut. They're riding him. That's their guy to the Champions League final. That's their promise line. Vinny, right? Like, there's a difference to this. Neymar didn't do that. And I think it shows, again, how difficult the sport can be at that level. Yes, to be the star to win a Champions League. And we're not saying that Rafa needs to win a Champions League with AC Milan, but it's like one of those things where, like, is Rafa the type of player that's going to make Milan get to that next level in the Champions League by him as the main guy? If you put Rafa with
What
I
you're
mean,
what you're
it's just like
asking is, can he do what Kaká did in 2007? And the answer is no.
right. Like I know he's playing. Kaká was playing with some amazing legendary players,
But
but
who are also we weren't even that good that year. That's like the
but
common misconception
it's
with
like going
Milan.
on one of those like signature runs where it's like for like the group stage knockout rounds.
I'm
Like
I'm I'm
wow,
biased. They're still besides Benzema actually that we just recently saw. Benzema and it's crazy because Messi and Cristiano have like a stranglehold on like the standards because they were so incredible.
yeah,
And like it is disrespectful in a way for me to say, oh, Kaká's run and Benzema's run were more impressive than what Cristiano and Messi did. But then you look at Cristiano and Messi's numbers, you're like, wow, shit, we actually kind of just took them for granted because the numbers are there, but they were also in like the best teams of all time. Benzema and Kaká, you don't sit there and say 2007 Milan. I think they might have finished fifth in the league. They were really like weak. I forget the exact spot. They were nowhere near close to the title. Benzema and Real Madrid were sort of like in this transitional phase into what this current era of Real Madrid is, where like Vinny starts to take over, and it's like Fede Valverde, and obviously Jude and all that. For me, I think people just kind of forget how great some of these guys actually were, and the standard and bar for some of these players to reach it is astronomically higher than some would like to
like
realize or admit. Um,
Martino.
yeah.
Who's going to win the Ballon d'Or?
Oh, Vinny is. Yeah.
Vinny, right?
Yeah.
So again, we can that, and that's what irks me a lot of times. And we can move on. We've been talking about this, but what irks me a little bit about like
Boom.
wider,
Overhit.
broader football conversations when it comes to player evaluation and like stacking one against the other. Oh, this player is world class. Well, my view and my criteria for being world class must be much different than yours, because I consider world class you're top 2, 3 in your position.
Yes.
If you're a good winger, very, very good winger, you're not world class to me, in my opinion. My view is like world class is you're the best of the best. You're top 5, like top
Right?
10,
Like
if not
it's a
Europe.
starting 11 of the best in the world at that
Correct.
position, right? Like if you
Correct.
go 4-3-3,
Correct.
does Leao make it into what world class would be? I mean, no. I would even when Mbappe was playing on the left, I have Mbappe, I had Vinny ahead of him. People are gonna come at me for this. I think Cavada is slightly better than Leao. Um, I think Cavada is a better goal scorer. Leao is more dynamic in different areas of his game. Um, I just think it also really comes from people having a hard time accepting that he's just not as good as they want him to be, and that's all. So we'll go to Fiorentina, the match and the team that he broke out against in his first ever goal for Milan. Listen, another side that's kind of been here and there. Have you liked what you've seen from Fiorentina this year? Personally speaking, I think they took a step back. I don't think this Fiorentina side has looked very good. They haven't gotten a ton of opportunities. I think you kind of rate Palladino a decent amount. I'm not the highest on him as some people are. Um, for me, this team again selling Nico Gonzalez, they're gonna have some scoring issues. It's kind of been reflected to start the year. They've scored 7 goals, which is kind of like the middle of the pack compared to other teams. They've conceded 7 times. That's the same amount as Milan and Inter.
Their defense is
They
pretty
only
solid.
have 1 win so far and 4 draws in the league, and I believe this one is away at the Franchi. Right? Is that the name of their stadium?
Yeah.
Um, so, and they have a conference league match tomorrow. This is being recorded on Thursday, so less rest for Fiorentina relative to Milan. Matt, how do you think this one plays out? Yeah, they're playing at the Franchi, Sunday, 2:45 p.m. So again, their only win of the season so far against Lazio. How are you feeling heading into this one? I'm feeling confident. I think we didn't start to play too many guys over the weekend. I don't think we exhausted that much energy. We weren't pressing full on like we usually do. In the match against Leverkusen, we were more on the counter. So I think some energy was preserved there. We saw Chukwueze come on for Pulisic. I think this is another good opportunity for Milan to pick up 3 points right into the international break. Uh, I think they're going to likely be starting their best 11 within this one, maybe a change or two. Would you see Morata and Tammy both starting in this one? Do you see that happening again?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think that the way that Fonseca goes about Champions League games is a little not interesting, but the way he rotates around those games, I'm still trying to kind of get an understanding of that because again, like you don't want to get into the position where you're trotting out the same 11 over and over again. And I
Yeah.
know results are crucial and guys are fit, but you got to start having some of that faith in some of your other players. Now, is this the game to do that? I'd argue the Lecce game was a little bit more so the case, but again,
Mm,
it followed the derby, so you needed a win there. You couldn't have a stinker in a match to follow the derby victory, which was crucial. So I
mm.
think that again, there's a good chance that we see marginal rotation. I think maybe Chukwueze gets the start, but again, it wouldn't surprise me if Fonseca's like the same 11, go on out. I mean, maybe Calabria is ready for it and he plays instead of Emerson. Again, it could be one of those types of things where it's like again one or two players, but more or less the team is still there. But I do expect. I don't think it's unfair for me to expect that we keep it rolling in the league. We've been playing noticeably better. The
Yeah.
results show. The defensive record shows. I think we conceded 1 goal in the last 3 games.
In the league,
I think we
yes.
scored nine goals in the last 3
We
games.
had scored
2 against Inter,
correct.
4 against
Yep. Yep.
Venezia, and 3 against Lecce.
Hmm.
Right.
Your mouth is
Just
correct, sir.
some more stats. Again, these are all from FootMob. You guys can check them out as well. Some insights. That's how they kind of frame it. So Fiorentina have scored 7 goals in the last 5 matches, as you mentioned. They're unbeaten in 13 home games. And Milan have won the previous 2 matches against Fiorentina. But I know, again, based on my knowledge of their track record away to Fiorentina, it's not that great. I think they play better, much better at home. But I can vividly recall a performance last year away to Fiorentina. I remember it was like April, maybe March, April. They got smoked by Fiorentina. I don't know if you remember that game.
How long ago was this? Sorry.
This was like March of 2023. March, April 2023.
Is this when Teo had like these awful individual? Wait, no, that's not when Vlahovic was
Yeah,
there. Is it?
March of 2023. They lost. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They won 2-1 against Fiorentina.
So you're
But
thinking the
then
year before?
March 4th, 2023, they lost 2-1. Gonzalez scored, Jovic scored. And then Teo Hernandez got a goal late. You remember that?
Yeah, Teo completely messed up that game.
Yeah.
That was yeah.
So I know Malik
It's just
Chow
so
got a yellow card
it's just so
early.
different. They're
Yeah.
different teams, different
No, I know,
manager.
but again, I think I'm still kind of it's still up for debate how we travel, right? Because Parma, we look horrible.
Center back. What do you do for this one? What's Mr. Santangelo say? Do you start Pavlovic next to Gabbia? Give that a try? Or do you just again do what we've
Who do we
been
have after
doing?
Fiorentina? We had the break, right?
Correct. I think personally, while you gather your thoughts, you stick with the same 11.
If
And
we
just
didn't
go
have the
from there.
international break, I
I
would
would
say
actually, I lied. I would do Loftus Cheek next to Fofana and then Reinders into 10. If Morata and or Tammy needs a break, give it to them. Because I'm
if
not
we
going to
didn't
be
have the
like,
international break, then I would say probably like let's rotate a little bit. But I think that you might see again, minus the 1 or 2 changes. Maybe Pavlovic is one. I think you don't want to get into a position where players don't feel trusted neither, and they're not really playing many games. So I think that this could be an opportunity for Fonseca to rotate a little bit without taking too much of a drastic approach and over rotating to the point where okay, like now, like we're dropping a stinker and heading into the international break, right? You want to keep that momentum going. So I think that keeping more or less the same 11 is crucial. And then you go into the international break, you recharge the batteries, and maybe I forgot who we play off the international break. That's maybe more of an opportunity to get Pavlovic back in there. Malik Chow maybe is a little bit more ready as well, and you can kind of take it that way.
just win the fucking game.
That's it. I mean,
just
that's it.
just
Like,
win the game. This is a team that's struggling. Like,
their defense is terrible, guys.
I think we should just step on their throats. I think Milan have the capability of that. I think this side can score so many goals, and I think they will score two. Like as in at least 2 goals. For me, I think this is a 3-1 victory for Milan. Um, let's go with Mr. Abraham getting on the score sheet here. I think Mr. Pulisic also does. Hey, by the way, Samuel Chukwueze had a nice feature. Dude, this guy needs to get a start sooner than later. I know it's a little odd time in the season right now. Again, do not want to bench Pulisic. Pulisic's in good form. With the way the fixtures are happening, we're going into international break. Don't want to sit him, but I also would be inclined to give Chuk some more minutes. I think he's done enough in the limited minutes that he's had where his team is just ain't helping him. I also thought he was foul yesterday too. Didn't get shit for that. That infuriated me.
He got one foul. One of the fouls he got. There was another one that was in the same area, like outside
On
the
the
corner of
right,
the box.
I'm by the touchline, and he clearly got kicked down, and he's on his knees, like looking around, like where is the call? Whatever. Yeah. So, what is your prediction? And we'll finish up here. It's been an hour.
It's tough. Am I ready to give them the credit for a clean sheet? I know we just got one, and we got one against Venezia too, so that we're turning a new leaf. But away, the away tax here. I'm gonna go 2-1. I'm gonna go 2-1. It's a game that Milan does. I don't think it's gonna be one of those 2-1s where it's like a nail biter. Where like, wow, like man, they're very. I think they'll control the game. I think it'll be one of those cases where they'll get a goal. Fiorentina will get a goal. Milan will get something, and then the last 15, 20 minutes they'll see out the victory. Again, it just the away kind of frightens me a little bit. And Fiorentina do have some players that I think can beat Milan and cause some trouble. I know Moise Kean's actually been pretty solid for them. I think he's got 4 goals in all competitions for them. So yeah, I mean, this is a team that did sell off some pieces. They lost Milenkovic in the summer to I think Nottingham Forest, Nico Gonzalez, as you mentioned, Amrabat. So they've lost some players, but they got Kopani, they got Keane.
Well, Amrabat was at United last year, but yeah.
No, but I think he went to Fenerbahce, right? Like this summer.
We're doing semantics. I'm sorry.
Yeah. 2-1.
Okay. Did you pick goal scorers? I messed that side of it.
No goal scores.
No goal scorers, but Milan will score. Yeah. Again, we appreciate you guys so much. As always, sound like a broken record. Shout out to Sempre Milan podcast. Shout out to Coast to Coast Milan Weekly podcast. Serie A Sit Down. Shout out to Badir doing live streams during the Milan matches. So be sure to check those out on the Sempre Milan channel. It is very funny to watch just Badir, and I'm sure he would take that as the compliment that it is. What else here? MLM podcast with Max and Gino. The guys do a great job. Milan Reports obviously do their aggregation well. Old Art Rossonero, great channel. Football Kush always does a great job. He went to watch the match with a bunch of fans from the Toronto fan club a couple of weeks ago. So go and check that out. And then again, that's pretty much it. You can go and follow Matt on his Twitter and his account that he has with his brother Nick at AC Milan Bros. You can follow us at That Milan Pod. Again, follow me everywhere, Martino Puccio. Just search the name. Not many people with that name, so you should be able to find me. And it's pretty much it. Always subscribe, give us your score predictions. It was your fair and non-toxic takes. We appreciate those. Again,
I'm sure our comments on Rafa will go over really well in the comments.
So. Yeah, I'm sure.
But we appreciate any
we appreciate
discourse.
Yes, perfectly said. Because again, we've had to ban quite a few people from the channel just because it's not worth this shit. Deal with it on Twitter. I don't feel like coming here. I like you guys. You guys are all very nice and cool. So we appreciate you guys. And just to update on everything, likely going to be doing a Fiorentina review, likely going to do a preview, I guess, before Udinese, and then I will be in Italy for the match. So I have no idea how any of that is going to work on top of the Club Brugge game as well. Yeah, we'll have to figure it out. I might just have to record it on my phone and then guide Santangelo on how to upload things if that's the case. But appreciate you guys so much. If you have any suggestions for me while I'm at San Siro, if you want me to maybe do a vlog or some shit, I hate doing that. I do not like doing that stuff in public. I think it's cringy. But I respect anybody who does it. I respect it. It's good for me. It's just I feel awkward. Yeah, and that's it. And I have to since Milan won the derby, by the way, I have to buy a Davide Calabria kit. So
You're gonna buy? Are you gonna buy it at the store? You might as well. You don't have to pay shipping.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna go buy it there. I'm not. Imagine I go and order it on here while I'm going there.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I plan on buying stuff there. Probably buying an away kit and the third kit. Third kit, I'm not sure who I want. I don't have a Teo Hernandez jersey, which is
I
maybe a
got
surprise.
the away one from 2 seasons ago.
I think I'm gonna go Calabria, home away kit, and then third kit for Teo. So have that, and I'll wear it next episode. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and other than that, take care.